We're live.
All right, everybody. My name is Ryan Wood. The other fella is Michael Lear. We're doing this combined through distance. So when we start talking over each other, it's that we're both so excited and exuberant about this topic, not lack of preparation. Right, Mike?
That's right. We've been planning this for years. So on the screen, you're going to see, sorry, there you go. We're starting already. So on the screen, you're going to see just some information. So obviously we've been asked by Renette and Gord to present on behalf of RDIEC for their Parents as Career Coaches seminars. In the past, we did these live, and now we are in the virtual world. So the information on here, please take a look. It can be found at rdiec.ca. Visit the YouTube channel. There's lots of excellent information on there and lots of great videos. If you want to qualify for the bursary, which is the important piece of this one, you can go to their website. You need to find the survey that says Parents as Career Coaches Survey right at the top of the page. It's a quick, easy survey. Get her done. That's $500 of free cash. Ryan, anything else you want to add on that one?
No, let's dive into the details.
I can't make the screen change. There we go.
Michael's in charge of advancing slides, so when that goes south, that's on him. We're going to talk a little bit about, well, our whole topic is about scholarships. Really, Michael and I, well, let's just go to the next one and we'll introduce ourselves and go. So I'm a guidance counselor over at FW Johnson Collegiate. I've been here for 3 years. Prior to that, I was at Belfer for a stack and the adult campus before that. So Mike's been at Campbell for seems like 20 years, but that's just the past year, I think.
Yeah, the last 2 years seems like 20. This is my 4th year here. Before that, I was actually over at Johnson Collegiate, where Ryan is now, in the smaller office, but the same location, and spent, again, a handful of years there. And yeah, so we've been doing this for a bit. And we're going to try to share with you some of the information that we have, some of the stuff that we talk to on a fairly regular basis with young people and families, and kind of give some direction and some guiding on maybe how you can get some money for your post-secondary funding for the years to come. So, all right. So, what we're going to look at. Sorry, go ahead.
I was supposed to do this one. Okay.
I know you are. Sorry.
The common sense approach to scholarships is the money's out there. You have to do some digging to find the money. But once you start applying, once you've kind of applied for 1 or 2, 3 scholarships, the process really repeats itself. So then it's just having access to where to go to find it. And that's just about selling yourself, making sure that you're not diminishing any accomplishments that you have. This is the one time where it pays literally to brag about all the awesome, wonderful, amazing things that you've done. And as trivial as you may think they are awesome. And we're going to get to that nitty gritty on how to make sure that you get all that going. So this can be an easy process, but it can also be time consuming, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I always talk to kids about the fact that, you know, the hours they spend now save themselves the hours in the coming years of working and the summertime and everything else, where they can put some money in the bank right now, get some of the skills in the sense of being able to apply for scholarships. The first year, everyone coming out of high school is applying, but years 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, going forward, there's lots and lots of opportunity. And so I always say this is kind of the year to hone those skills and then to move forward and to save yourself some hours in the coming years. So doing some digging. These statistics are a little bit older, and I think it's the one thing that I can say is that I think scholarships have become a little more popular in the last, 5 or 6 years, especially since I've been doing this. I think that part of that is just that cost of tuition is going up and the cost of living is so expensive right now. And so more and more students are applying, but I would say that does those numbers dwindle quickly after that first year of university. So once students get in, if you talk to people within the universities or post-secondary institutions, a lot of them talk about the fact that once they get there, they kind of get into that routine of school and paying for school, or student loans kick in, things like that. And so the demand and the push for scholarships is gone. They don't have the parents pushing them as much. They don't have a high school counselor. They don't have teachers and all the different people. So the numbers drop after year one. So again, the hope is that we can teach you how to do some digging, get some good skills built in, and then you can move forward from there. So 81% of school or awards on Scholarship Canada don't require an academic average. That's a myth. We often hear that. It's like, oh, I don't have the greatest grades, blah, 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 blah. But my thing is, they're looking for good humans as much as they're looking for good students, and that combination is the key. So while you're working on your academics, it's important to also be working on the good human side of things, and that's been changed a little bit with COVID, I think, but I think it's also still a really important piece. The other one is 70% of students 70% of scholarships don't demonstrate financial need. And so again, with that, it's like, well, my parents make this money or that money. Just because parents have money doesn't mean it's all going to post-secondary education. We know that, or you may be, one of 4 or 5 kids that are going to school currently in a family. So the majority of scholarships do not ask for financial needs or have to prove financial need. So anything to add there, Ryan?
No, the only thing I'd add to is just looking at well-rounded humans for scholarships applications and that type of stuff. There haven't been a lot of volunteer opportunities in the last year with COVID. So whereas that a lot of scholarships really kind of focused on volunteering and extracurricular, that has been a benefit for those students who typically normally haven't had volunteer or extracurricular activities, because for the last 2 years, no one really has. So that's leveled the playing field a lot. And so that's something to remember as well.
One of the things I will add into that, and it's not too late to do this, is to also get really creative in your volunteering and how you can help. We've had students that have done some work around nonprofits and just collecting goods and bringing stuff in, things like that. Again, that idea that you can show that you're thinking more on a global or outside of yourself is really important ways that you can show that. So we've had kids that have created their own nonprofits. We've had students that have done podcasts, things like that, use their social media feeds to raise awareness. All those different things just show some uniqueness in your thinking, and that's an important piece, I think, when you want to stand out when you're applying, and those are ways that you can. So the big dig. This is you, and then I'm going to do your screen sharing, right? Perfect.
So we've already hinted at this, that there is a lot of money that is out there for scholarships. Back in Michael and my day, it was guidance counselors had binders full of scholarships, and you had to sit there and thumb through the binder to look for the scholarships. Now everyone's moved online. And so what we've done is we've compiled a link here, which is public for anyone, doesn't matter which school division you're attending or what school or anything like that. It's right on the Regina Public's website. So you go to reginapublicschools.ca, click on students. Down at the bottom under students is scholarships. And that's going to take you to right in the middle there. It says this compiled list. And so that list you can open, and it is set up so that it's by month. So when we're looking at December, those are the scholarships that the deadline ends in December, right? So you always want to make sure that you are looking for the month that you're currently in and the next month as well, because a lot of scholarships will have a first of the month deadline. So right now it's the middle of November when we're recording this. Students should be looking in November, but also December, because that December 1st one, you don't want to miss out on that December 1st one. And so what these are is it doesn't give you a description of what it is. You have to click the link. That's where the work comes in. That's where the clicking comes in. You click the link and it takes you to the website of that institution, of that organization, to give you that requirements and everything like that.
So one thing I'll throw into this, Brian and I try to keep this up to date. At moments, websites change, people change. I've always shown, and this is a good one just to show, if you go to it and you for some reason can't get to the actual scholarship link or the bursary link, I often tell people just to go into the search engine of the actual company. So if it's SestHealth, go up here, hit this button, just type in scholarship, it'll bring up all of them. And so it's just a way of getting around it. And we, like I said, we do our best to keep up to date, but they are kind of ever changing, and people are adding things and different requirements, especially with COVID. So if you're ever stuck, that's one way we can kind of work around that part. So,
so this whole list is compiled off of scholarships that all the counselors at Regina Public Schools are made aware of. So this isn't exclusive to Johnson or Campbell or anything like that. So anytime we get new ones, we add them in. And so this is kind of constantly updating and changing. So these are scholarships that are mostly going to be specific to Regina and Saskatchewan, because that's the majority of them. So if you're on this and you're looking, you may say, well, what about maybe Canada Post has a scholarship, right? Because maybe you as a parent or guardian work at Canada Post and you want to see. So by no means is this a comprehensive list. This is a starting point to wet your whistle, to get you going. And then you still need to always think about what other scholarships are out there, right? Where do you...
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say, where do you work? Where do you bank? What area of the city do you live in? Those all have potentially scholarships available to them. So doing some research as well is always good and important.
Yeah. Union groups, if you're the Legion, depending on, essentially any workplaces, if you work at Superstore, or, we have lots of students that work at Superstore. Superstore would have one. Walmart, you'll notice that even in December, I think is Burger King one. And so that's a scholarship for students that work at Burger King. And so, the biggest thing is like we talked about, it's the big dig. Now, in looking at these scholarships, we often hear the story or the question, it's like, oh, am I too late? Or when do I have to apply? And part of it is that the first semester essentially of high school for grade 12, there's a few, they're big ones. And a lot of them are national awards, things like that. So you hear about like the Loran, the TD, those are your really big ones, $70,000, $100,000. Schulich Leaders comes up early in January. And those ones are kind of your big national awards. And we have students either that only apply for those or that say, oh, it's way too big, I'll never get it. And I try to, work with both of those groups and say like, hey, like, don't plan on just winning the Schulich or the, the TD. That's a tough one, but use that to be able to build for the year. And so what I mean by that is by, working on your Loran scholarship or working on your TD, we all hope that you make 70,000. It's not that we're trying to discourage that, but what we hope is that when you do that, the work that you're doing there will essentially guide you and give you everything you're going to need for every scholarship moving forward. So you're going to look at a personal statement. You're going to be looking at a good resume and a good vitae and getting good references. And so once you've done all that work early on in the year, that before Christmas timeline, when things are, not as busy for all the scholarships, then when you look here, as we get past January, February, we kick into March, all of a sudden you're going to notice this list starts to get pretty extensive. April, again, it's long. May, it's big. And then June, it starts to slow down a little bit. And then July and August, it's small again. So the bulk of scholarships from a community standpoint are going to come in that kind of February, March, April, May, and then it starts to slow down. And so using those big ones is kind of your guide to get your information there. And hey, it's okay to recycle. It's okay to adapt papers that you've written to be able to use for other ones. And it takes off some of that work. So that 10 hours or so you put in at the start, it might only be 15 or 20 minutes or an hour later on for all the other ones. And, the students that are saying, well, it's $500, why should I apply? Why should I waste? Well, I don't know. My thing is, if you waste 2 or 3 hours, and I use waste as the air quotes there, that's a lot of minimum wage hours that you're not working next year. So if you're taking home $10 an hour, that's 50 hours next year that you can do something else. You can be studying, you can take that money and go on a trip instead, or go on a ski trip or whatever it might be, pay for some books, pay for gas money. And so it's a way of earning it. It seems like a lot of work, but if we are trying to, take that money out of our jobs from next year, it just allows us to have some freedom and a little extra cash. So, Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything else?
and
Sorry.
the spring gets a lot busier for scholarships
Yeah.
because that's when the majority of universities and post-secondary institutions have sent out those offers, and so
Yeah.
you're committing to engineering or nursing or pre-med or education, like, because some will have specific requirements for the program that you're going into. So that's why that March April really picks up, because there's more concrete path that you're taking at that point.
So at the top of the page here, you can see in the screen, hopefully, I'm circling it with my cursor. There is just some general scholarship sites. And so when we look at scholarship, or we talk about scholarships, you're going to have, if you're going into post-secondary universities, you're going to have your guaranteed entrance scholarships. So those are going to be based off of kind of those 5 academic courses, depending on the university, a combination of grade 11 and or grade 12 courses. And it's usually 5 or 6 academic classes. That average will then allow you to qualify, one, for the program you're applying to, but 2, for automatic entrance scholarship. So as soon as you put that application in, you automatically qualify. So if you're a 95 plus, you might get $3,000. On top of that, there's a secondary set of scholarships that are available through universities and all post-secondary institutions that usually have a window of opportunity. So universities tend to be from kind of that February 15th through March 15th. Some will be December 15th if it's a special award like a U of S. But the majority of the bulk of universities is going to be in that March till February. And then depending on the other institutions, so if you're looking at a trade school or a Polytechs or some of the Alberta colleges or Saskatchewan colleges, those ones, because they have intakes throughout the year, they will be kind of specific to when your starting dates are. So if your school starts in September, then chances are that your window for scholarships will open up about the same time. So the biggest thing with that, in that idea of going for the big dig, is just the institutions you're looking at, is just to be looking on their websites and finding out some dates and just do some questions. They'll always have like a Money Matters or a scholarship tab or something that will kind of guide you to that area. The other thing that are on this sheet is just some of the larger websites that will help you in search. So I look at ScholarTree or Scholarships Canada. Those ones, you're going to create a profile. You're going to put down your information of where you want to go to school, and then it starts to do some of the searching for you as well. So it kind of scrapes the internet and finds scholarships that will relate to the programs you're applying to, and also just companies pay them to kind of distribute their information. So be cautious when you apply, just what you're clicking off, because you may end up getting a few extra emails that you're not intending to get. But the information that is there is quite extensive, and it is good for a starting spot for looking up scholarships. Anything else on that one, Ryan?
No, I think we can move on to the next.
All right. So back onto that scholarships page from our link that we talked about earlier, the Regina Public Schools scholarships link. There's also a list here for this part. Ryan, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So this kind of does a summary of everything we've kind of been talking about. Explains community scholarships, post-secondary institutions, specific scholarships. It's got the links and everything like that, the best we can. Talks about resume, keeping your resume up to date. Having a resume that you use for applying for a job is probably going to look different from a resume that you're going to use for applying for post-secondary, right? When you're applying for your first job, you may not put on there that you got the grade 9 social studies award, because you may not see the purpose of that. Applying for a scholarship, that's going to be important. That's going to be something that you absolutely want to put on there. And so statement of involvement and intent is another one on there. That is going to be, they've gone away, most scholarships have gone away from saying, let's have a 2-page, 1,000-word essay about who you are and why you're deserving. Now it's mostly, if they wanted that, it's like 500 words. So you really have to be concise about why you are more deserving than the 1,000 other people that are applying. So this is where you're going to make sure to pay attention to the requirements of the scholarship. If it says demonstrate financial need, you may put in there that single parent family, 4 children in the house. You may just put that you're the first person to go off to post-secondary. You may say that you're moving out of the city to go to a different school from where you are. That can look different for every single one. So once you've done 2 or 3, scholarship applications, you're going to be able to recycle some of that, and that's okay. That's not cheating, like we tell you if you're taking an English assignment from one class to the other. This is good stuff. That's what you want to do. For the reference letters, that is pretty important. We always tell students to have 3 or 4 reference letters, and then they can take the letter that fits the requirements of that scholarship that you're applying for, right? If you're going into education and you want to be a science teacher, maybe you get your science teacher to write you one, because they're going to be able to speak to the skills and abilities that they see, that they'd be able to speak to about why you'd be good for science teacher. Getting something from a coach or an organization you volunteer with. Every single person's going to come at it a little different, and that's important as well, because each one of those is going to represent different aspects of your life, and that way you're going to be able to pick and choose which ones you're able to apply for the scholarship that fits your requirements. Now, some of these you may say, how do I just go up to someone and say, can you write me a reference letter? Yes and no. If you come to me and say, hey, I need a reference letter for the end of the week, it's going to be tough, right? You want to give some people some time, but you also want to give them a timeline. You don't just say 2 weeks. You say, can I come back on the 20th of November and pick it up then? And teachers need that because they thrive under pressure just like students do. But the other part is, Mike, if you scroll down, we've got in here a brag sheet. And what this is just a little bit of a way to show you what you might want to be talking about and what you want people to be able to focus on in your reference letter. Because that teacher may not know that you got that social studies award in grade 9, right? They may not know that you were on the honor roll. They may not know that you volunteered. So having something like this where you can just plug in the information, say, would you be willing to write a reference letter for me for this date? Yes, thank you. Okay, here's the information about me, so that they don't forget all the wonderful, awesome things that you've done. Because if they're just going off of your science class that they've done, sure, I'm sure it'll be awesome, but they can pull things in to show that you're more well-rounded. So having that ready to go is really important as well. Michael, what am I missing so far?
I think just the biggest thing for me is like, when you're asking for these reference letters, it's not going to necessarily just be a, hey, can you do this? I'm pretty strict in how I ask people and and my expectations of them for a reference letter, because I want to make sure that the letter that I'm writing is adequate. If you give me a day notice, you're going to get a day notice reference letter, and that's not to be disrespectful. That's because that's what I'm going to be able to give you. But if you give me a week or two, then you're going to get a reference letter that's, not just a form letter where I've put in some basic information that I know about you and, signed my name to it. I'm going to sit down with you. We're going to craft a letter that's going to be perfect for that scholarship, or it's going to be perfect for that job, or whatever it is that you're applying to. And it's a give and take, and we're working on things together, and we're trying to create the best language that fits the requirements for that scholarship. And so again, it's about providing that time. It's about having the information available. And so that's where that brag sheet comes in. That's where having a really good reference or a really good resume set up and ready to go with some of those accomplishments in it, with some detail about the volunteering that you're doing, bringing in another reference letter from that outside person that I can look at to see what they're covering, so that I can maybe cover other pieces. So again, that when you present that they're going to get the best version of you and all versions. They're going to hear it from an academic standpoint. They're going to hear it from, a school counselor standpoint, and they're going to hear it from a sports or a job reference or something like that, where it's someone that can, attest to your work skills and how you are. And so the biggest thing for me is time and being a part of that writing, so that it's the best possible for you. So. What else we got on here, Ryan? There is a comment about transcripts. Some will ask you for an official transcript. This is something to be prepared about or prepared for. The high school counselors in Regina can provide you with an unofficial document, but if you want an official one, you do have to request that directly from the ministry. And the link's here, but you can always just hit, in Google, high school transcripts Saskatchewan. The website itself, hopefully they don't hear this, is probably the worst online shopping experience you'll ever have. But it's it is there. And so you can have them sent directly to your home. For every time you order, you get up to 10 transactions. So if you know you're applying to certain universities, you can pre-order those transcripts to be sent, at the end of semester 1, at the end of semester 2. You could maybe have them sent currently to your house, as well as after semester 1 and after semester 2 as well. And so then you'll forward it, so you're not paying 3 different times or 4 different times for those transcripts, because there is some that will ask for official and some that will ask for unofficial. So just make sure that you are looking at the requirements when you're applying for those scholarships. Anything else here, Ryan?
No, I think that's it. We've gone off on a tangent. I'm not sure what we've covered from this and our slideshow now.
That's okay.
We did that one. No.
So we talked a little bit about this idea of planning in advance. We talked about the fact that students often overlook the 50 hours or the $500 ones. And so I think that it's important that if we add up those, again, the difference is going to be that if you've applied for some of the bigger ones or you've put the time in early, those $500 ones at the end just become extras, and you've already done probably the majority of the work that needs to be done for them. So brag sheet we've talked about. Again, the biggest thing is that when you're applying for these scholarships is you want to be able to stand out. So being humble, but at the same time as making sure that you're thorough in what you're sharing. Show your uniqueness, how you can be different, how you're not just volunteering at an agency, but you're doing something different. And if you're not volunteering, but you're exceptional at something else. I read a really cool article from MIT talking about they were looking at what it means to apply and who gets awards and what they're looking for when they're even just taking applications. And they talked about a person that was an expert in Chinese porcelain. And the way that the article was written was like, what 18-year-old is an expert in Chinese porcelain and has had articles published? Well, it would be a person that's obviously super dedicated to their craft or to their hobbies. And if you can do it in that sense, then you can probably do it in all other parts of your life as well. And that's a good skill to have going forward in universities. So it's showing that uniqueness, showing your passion that you have for something. If it's a sport, if it's a musical instrument, whatever it is, right? Don't be afraid to show that. If you're spending hours and hours and hours and years and years and years towards becoming a piano recitalist, that's an important piece to put in there. And if you've won awards and you've worked with people in different areas, again, these are things that you want to show off to the best that you can. And so those aren't things we want to undermine. We want to make sure you're putting those in there. So anything on that, Ryan, with your talent? Because you've got lots.
I just say even something as simple as AP. We think of AP as only being beneficial. Well, not only being beneficial, but majority of the benefit coming from preparing you for post-secondary and academically. But if you put that on an application for a community scholarship as well, that might separate you from someone who doesn't mention it. And there might be a whole bunch of people that did take it, but if you're the only one that mentioned it, and they can see that you have gone the extra mile for your education, then that might separate you from the rest.
And even the wording of how you put those things in, right? I think that's an important piece too. You have to kind of become a wordsmith when we're applying, again, to make your wording just a little bit different that stands out from the other person that's applying. So I often tell people, make sure that when you're writing your reference letters, when you're writing your scholarship letters, when you're doing your brag sheets, any of this type of stuff, is to find that person in your school that's won the grammar police, the English teacher that loves grammar. That's an important piece, because that, again, will allow you to stand out positively or negatively. A second one would be find that teacher or find that person in your school that's working on their master's degree that's up to date with the lingo of academia and the places that you're going to be applying to, because they can help you just put that language into your application or into your letter or into your personal statement, whatever it might be, and having them. And most of these people are quite happy to sit down and spend the time with you to do this, as long as you've put the work in yourself. But it does definitely show off your talents when you've done that. When you've got that information in there, people are like, oh yeah, they're going to know I didn't write this. No, they're going to assume that you wrote this and you either sat down with someone or did a ton of research yourself, which again puts you that next step above the person that might be applying beside you that did just write it 5 minutes before the deadline was due. So
Absolutely.
We've covered that. Look at this. We don't need slideshows. We just talk. I just
Look
talk.
at that.
Plan early, plan well. Make sure you spend time with the person. Again, that's just something, like I said, we've talked about. The editor is the key to so much of this, and get that jargon in there.
And parents too, I think that's, you can be that editor as well. You can say, okay, like you do the stuff and then I will read it, and put that extra support on that as well. And just that's a good way to be involved as a parent.
And don't be afraid to ask some people that are involved. It can be good and it can be bad. We do hear a lot of our students that come in and say, "Well, I was talking to a friend and I have this and I have that," and sometimes the information is really good, and sometimes the information is really bad. But at the same time, there's lots of reference and resources out there for people. So as much as we talk about the negatives of social media and Reddit and all these different things, there is some really good information that's available. I have a couple students right now that I'm working with that have on Instagram, they follow a couple different websites or a couple different handles that just send out like scholarship information from Canada, and it's really good stuff. And there's been some really interesting scholarships that they've been able to apply for, and some of them are essay writing competitions, different things like that. But again, there is a lot of that out there. Reddit, when you're looking at writing a reference letter, or if you're looking at writing your personal statement for UBC, you can go onto Reddit. You can read other people's experiences, people that have got into the programs. They explain what they've wrote about. They can explain if you're applying for the Loran and you're now a semifinalist, you can go on there and people will talk about the questions that they've had, or the process, things like that. So some of this is work, but at the same time, it's free money. And so, if you look at this like a part-time job and you spend 5 or 10 hours a week for the course of the year, it's going to be something that will pay off for you, not just in the financial side, but also just making you a way better student and a way better, academic as you move forward, whether it's for a job or for school or for, just being a better person too. So, Ryan?
You make me a better person, Mike Lear.
I wish I could.
Yeah. I think that's it. So here's our email addresses if you have any information as well. Every Regina Public School also has guidance counselors and separate system as well. So use those people as well. Not to say don't contact us and reach out if you have questions, but you might have some people that know your kids if they don't attend Campbell or Johnson. So reaching out and kind of getting their perspective as well and their insights, because Mike and I are just, we're two loud voices in a room yelling into the ether, whereas there's other people who are very, very competent as well. So feel free to reach out to us, but also you've got people in your specific schools as well.
And I think when you're thinking about that, look at the institutions that you're applying to. They often will have on their, scholarship workshops. They have, a lot of them, UBC, and a lot of them have YouTube pages where they have information where it's going to walk you through and talk you through some of the processes in the sense of application and scholarships and, what happens after I get accepted, now what? And so, again, part of this is that we want to give you the skills to be able to do this stuff. And just, encouraging you that it's safe, it's okay. You're allowed to ask questions. They want you to ask questions, and people that know your name, if you're applying for a community scholarship and you see at the bottom of there, for any questions, please contact, don't be afraid to contact them. Again, you want to be able to stand out. There's an opportunity in it right there. Hey, just applying for the scholarship, wondering about this. And then now that person, if they're part of that scholarship committee that's looking at it, they know that name. And that little piece can be the difference between you and somebody else, because you showed that initiative. And that's a key piece in all of this, is just having that initiative to go to the next step and do a little more. So.
All right, and this is the last one here. This is a QR code that you can scan, and it'll take you right to that scholarship list. If not, we walked you through where to find it through the Regina Public Schools website under students, scholarships, and it's right there as well. So even if you work in the community and know of some other scholarships that you're willing to send off to us as well, send them off and we can add them to our list for everyone else to share and enjoy.
Great job, Brian.
Great job, Michael.
Thank you, Renette and Gord, for setting this up again. And if anyone has any questions, just reach out.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.